Hello and welcome. My name is Kevin. This is Do It for Bruce. Today we're going to show you some tips and tricks on how to create a new faith within the Zoroastrian religion in Crusader Kings 3. This is going to be a little different compared to our True Faith video I put out because there's going to be one extra hurdle to deal with, which is a hostile Lige Lorde. There is only one Zoroastrian character that starts independent in 867. The rest are under one Muslim faith or another, which means your lord is either trying to convert you or outright revoke your land from the get-go. So let's talk about ways to work within a hostile working environment in the medieval age. For this example, we'll be using the Karen family for obvious reasons. Thankfully, your liege starts out at war, so you have some breathing room. You can choose to help them out or let them fail in their defensive war. Personally, I went with the let him fail route because it gives you time to accumulate some money and increase your troop count. The other element that is going to be key is that you are still a feudal government type compared to his clan government type. As a feudal lord, you can modify your contract to help prevent him from revoking your lands and forcing you to change your faith by adding the following two rights: title revocation protected and religious rights protected. Unfortunately, you can only make 3 changes per lifetime to your liege contract. So back to our example with the Karen family, you should wait until the conflict is just about done and add the title revocation protection as a right to your contract. You're going to have to increase one of your obligations, or if by some miracle you can snag a hook on them, you can use that. I chose taxes because troop numbers are going to be important for conquest. Unfortunately, you'll still have to deal with him constantly trying to get you to convert to his faith and or converting your lands, but those things are manageable as long as you have land. Without religious right protected, you should expect your liege to demand your conversion, and when you refuse, which you will have to keep your faith, he can throw you in jail, which you can still just pay a ransom or try to escape from. Depending on how the conflict goes, you should either push for independence or begin expanding in the realm. In my playthrough, my liege lost his conflict and then ended up being weak enough to get independence from. Once free of my old liege, I joined the neighboring kingdom to prevent him from conquering me outright. I then had to renegotiate my contract because it was with a new liege, but that was no problem. In the end, this ended up working out well because I was protected and had a bunch of weaker neighbor vassals who I could begin to pick off one by one. So in quick review, your liege hates you, but you're feudal, so you can make it legally impossible for him to take your lands and convert you. But you'll have to give up money and troops for these rights unless you can get a hook on him. Changing gears now, let's quickly talk about piety production for the Zoroastrian faith. There are several sects of Zoroastrian still existing in 867, but the only one that still has any playable characters is Mazdayazen. First, let's look at the tenets of the faith and see what piety can be derived from them. Divine marriage is our first tenet, which unfortunately for us, it does not help produce any piety because the faith marriage status isn't monogamous. Next, we have ritual celebration, which gives you 100 piety for hosting a feast, which you can do every 5 years. Lastly, we have sky burials, which will give you 250 for burying your ancestors, usually a parent. Now let's move on to general piety production. Pilgrimages are one of the better ways to get piety. The rule of thumb is that the longer and more costly it is, the more piety you'll get at the end. Another helpful way to get piety is to fight other people of different faiths. Thankfully, all your fellow vassals will be of different faiths, so it won't be that hard to farm. Once you're serious about forming your own Zoroastrian faith, you should switch your character or learning lifestyle. I would suggest the theology focus because it was going to give you 1 piety a month. You can also do the other 2 focuses, they're just not as efficient at producing piety. You'll be putting your points in the theologian skill tree, making your way down to the prophet skill, which gives you 1% piety per night, which is nice, but you're really after the faith creation and reform costs minus 50%. You can still reform your faith without this skill, but it requires you to farm more piety. Next, switch your spouse to patronage. This will add half of their skill to your skill. If your spouse isn't very learned, you might want to consider dropping them for a smarter person. Every point of learning is 0.1 piety, so if you have 7 learning, it's 0.7 monthly piety. If you have 15 piety, it's 1.5 piety a month. Each faith has 5 holy sites. You only need 2 to recreate the head of faith or 3 to create your own faith. For all Zoroastrian sects, the counties that have them are Ushidorina, no Kukundi, Tahaki, Sagin, Tae Soliman, Yazid. This all depends on what of the families you start as, but the three least difficult sites are Ushidorina, Yazid, and no Kukundi. The last two are farther away and or in stronger nations, which will make it more difficult to acquire them. Back to our Karen example, I was able to capture these three pretty simply because they were either controlled by a fellow vassal or a weak neighbor. You should look at reforming your faith so that you can have an idea of how much piety you'll need. Depending on what you choose for tenets and doctrines, the piety costs can vary wildly. Once you have the three holy sites and a pile of piety, it's time to click that Reform Faith button. From there, it's just up to you to spread it far and wide. Word of warning, when I created my faith, my government type changed to my lieges, which then put me in a world of hurt when he started revoking my land. In conclusion, some of the best ways to gain piety are through events such as pilgrimages, sky burials, and throwing feasts. Fighting heathens is going to make up the difference. Of the 5 holy sites, Ushadarin, Yazid, and Noka Kundi are some of the easier ones to get. Finally, you'll need to get your hostile Lige Lorde under control by putting protections on your land and faith by increasing your obligations or having a hook on them. That's a wrap for today. Don't forget to subscribe. If you'd like to watch a campaign of me complete this as a challenge, here you go. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Let me know what other faiths I should cover, and have a good rest of your day.